Well, hello everybody, and welcome yet again to the latest edition of the Inworld Review. Today is the 6th of June of the grand old year 2015, which means it's actually the first Saturday of the month. And so we're away from home again this week. We're doing our special first Saturday show from the grand old world they call Second Life, one of the original hangouts in the metaverse. And we're on our final stage here, which we've had for many years at the Chilbo community, where we've got our little base here. Sadly, we are unable to have Anna Millen with us this week. She's normally our regular in the Second Life show with Arts and Destinations. She was otherwise engaged today, so we don't actually have her with us. But we do have us, the usual team, and an old friend with us too. So I'll just introduce everybody before we get started. On my left, of course, it's Tara. Tara Yates. Welcome, Tara. Who will all undoubtedly be muted.
Who, of course, has herself muted. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
And on my right, of course, is Maria. Maria Kovalov from Meta World Business. Sorry, Hypergroup Business. We are getting ourselves in the mess today, aren't we? Hi, Maria.
It's only been a week, Mal, and you've already forgotten me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible, isn't it? Well, I've just assigned you to a new blog in the process. Anyway, welcome, and
always good to be here.
Oh, slides are unlocked. I see what's happening here. Yes, this is a bit of a confusing day today. My iPad wouldn't open because it had locked itself. Very good. And also, it's a great welcome back to somebody we hadn't actually seen for ages. But I think it was last week when we had Melanie Milland here. She did happen to mention in passing that they have this amazing build of London on Avination. And that build, the person behind that build, as well as, of course, Virtual London here in Second Life, is our old friend Debs Regent. So welcome, Debs.
Thank you, Mel. It's lovely to be back and lovely to see you all again.
And
it's been a while.
Too. You also have the honour of being in that wonderful sort of tree sort of chair and being in a position to hug the wonderful bear. So you really got pride of place there, I should hasten to add. But anyway, I'm just saying that because it looks good on camera, so to speak. And talking of cameras, I ought to press the button that puts my face onto screen, although James is doing a wonderful job there. I'd also like to give a shout out, I must keep forgetting or remembering, I should say, to do this, to James Atlow, who is our regular cameraman here now, both over on OpenSim, but also here in Second Life when we do it. So welcome, James. Thank you for being here, and you are, of course, muted, but thanks for everything. So on with the show, so to speak. Live from Chilbo once again. Well, as usual, I'm just going to start with a very brief roundup of what I've got in my Twitter feed. If you want links to do with the metaverse and interfacing and stuff like that, you can follow my my feed at twitter.com/malburns, or one word. And it's basically that I'm looking back over the week's feed so I can remember my own links. So here go a few of them. Virtual Reality in Los Angeles is having a summer expo, and they've announced the 2015 Proto Awards dates. That was supposed to be Road to VR. Again, you'll find the pass-through links on my Twitter feed. NVIDIA, who make graphics cards, you may well be aware of that, have announced something called GameWorks VR to launch alongside their new GTX 980 Ti graphics processing unit. And again, Road to VR have more information on that. As they do the next one, which is Google's Project Soli, S-O-L-I, radar hand tracking, and how VR and AR might use it. Road to VR again. But I've got a lot from them, but look at it. The Virtual World blog Right, 60% off large worlds and dedicated memory guarantee. To be honest, I can't remember what that was. I don't think it was one of your posts, Maria. I think it's probably one of those, but probably an open single virtual world for all I know, just offering that. So my apologies, I can't actually remember what the details were on that. Also, excuse me, there is a wonderful weekly, well, I say weekly, it sometimes comes out daily, podcast called Voices of VR. And number 139 came out this week, and they've always got good guests, but the guest on this one was a chap called Henry Fuchs. I believe that's how you pronounce this. I could think any other way you might pronounce it. So Henry Fuchs on the early history of virtual reality with Ivan Sutherland and the Sword of Damocles, an early pioneer there in virtual realities, although obviously the subjects are, as you might suspect, in that period of time, games. Quite a few posts, obviously, for hypergrid business, which Maria will cover, Google plus communities, slow growth, what some of them do anyway. Welcome Ken Perlin and Jeremy Bailison. Oh, yes, this is Philip. Right, High Fidelity. Philip Rosedale has hired two, apparently, I've never heard of them, but apparently they are to die for people in the world of VR. A chap called Perlin and a chap called Jeremy Balinson. So he's grabbing the people that. The Current Journal had a post called Amazing Spaces. I think this is going to be why they're ongoing series when they're not writing about fire alerts in the Canadian mountains and those sort of roleplay stuff. And he looked at a region called Connie's Haven on right on our own grid, the great Canadian grid. Lots of other stuff here. I suspect an awful lot of them are Hyperica posts, Actos, Fantasy, yes, these are all. Yeah, these are all Hyperica posts. So lots of Maria's sleep on Hyperica.com. It certainly produces a hell of a lot of posts every day, sometimes 5, 6, 7 or 8 different destination posts every day to find your way around the hypergrid. It's all great stuff. But I can't possibly read them all out, can I? Google's Cardboard Design Lab is teaching virtual reality with, brackets, what else? Virtual reality. Apparently they're using some virtual reality program to, why has Windows calendar popped up? I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by Skype noises and the Windows calendar. Never mind. Right. Yes, so Google actually using VR, the VR environment, to teach what VR is all about, which is a rather sensible way to go, really. It's like coming here to teach Second Life. You might as well do it in Second Life rather than through a who knows what, a video conference or something. Now, talking of Avination, where Debs obviously has a presence there, and we had Manly last week, but Avination are holding a benefit for a tolerance group. Actually, this is in hypergrid business too, so Maria can tell us more about that shortly. Oh, this I thought was rather interesting. Virtual Ability, who are in Second Life here principally, as they help people with disabilities and less able persons, shall we say, use virtual worlds. Some of it involves sort of creating environments that less able people find familiar. On others is simply using virtual worlds to empower people with abilities maybe they don't have the full use of in real life. But anyway, virtual reality drew a very big crowd apparently. It's well, the headline here from Karen Lavelle is Virtual Ability drew a great virtual world picture at the Denver Comic Con. Apparently the Denver Comic Con had Gentle Heron as a guest and a whole load of stuff on virtual worlds and in particular on virtual ability. I don't know how that connection was made, but Comic-Cons are pretty big things, and I think I'm not saying that we're living in a cartoon here. It's far more than that, but there is a certain crossover between the world of comics and virtual worlds, just as are between comics, films, and all that stuff. So I think the Denver Comic Con is quite a big one. It's not the biggest, but I think it's a pretty big one. So good that they got that publicity, I think. And yeah, Matthew, believe it or not, that is it for my main Twitter feeds. So I can now flip the thing that goes back, and in anticipation of later, I'm switching to my Malvern's Writer account, where I have tweets which are actually about Second Life and stuff, which is where we are today. But before I go into that, we'll be no doubt covering quite a bit of Second Life now, as I hand over to Tara for her take on the week. And of course, being Second Life, we have no problem with a return to the show and tell. So to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mel. Yes, indeed. Yes, Second Life is easy to do show and tell because I know where to look for things. It makes it easy. And this week it was excellent timing because on the 1st of June, this round of the Arcade Gotcha event opened. And I think I probably need to do that there. Our cameraman will be a little happier if I do that. Yeah. Anyhow, yes. I have lips again. And they're moving. You mute everything so you're not being funky on camera when you're not talking, and then you have to remember to undo it. Anyhow, the Arcade Gotcha is the grandparent of the multi-designer gotcha events, and is particularly noteworthy for having a really stellar collection of designers who are part of that event. I'm sure that new folks, I'm sure, break into it. I do see new names popping up from one to another, but there are definitely some folks that those of us who are fans of the Arcade Gotcha look forward to seeing what they've come up with in the new round. And I keep thinking, how can they get any better? But they do. And they keep coming up with even more fabulous stuff. So just to give you a rundown, I have a bunch of things, and we'll start with an old friend. You have seen D-Labs moving people, moving little fellows and girls and guys in their little villages on a couple of rounds. Well, this time around, it's birdies. And the birdies fly up and down, and they have birdhouses that they fly into and land on. And this is just my first kind of pass on things. There's there's a pile of fruit boxes, apple boxes. They land on those. You might notice down in front there's a little bird cage, and that's actually the bird cage that the birdies come in. And after they've escaped the bird cage and fly around openly, they'll still return to their bird cages, which is really fun. And not only that, different birds will return to whatever bird cage you happen to have res. But anyway, there's one of the bird houses that I got has a little propeller thing, so it's obviously one that floats in air. And I see there's a birdie landing on the front of the perch on that one. I haven't had a chance to watch these long enough to see if there are other birdies who poke their heads out of things, or just the ones that are flying around. Because on the piccolo rounds, they're little buildings that have people in them, and when they interact with the folks who are outside, there well could be some of those in the birdies, which are called pip 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 or pip pip. But I don't have a big enough collection yet to tell you. Anyway, moving along, in the front here, there's also a terribly cute little bear. This is, where is the bear from? Oh dear. The bear, yes, very quickly here. Peter Pan is the name of the creator. The store is called Boogers. This is Larry Bear. There's a bunch of other bears in the collection too. This is just one of them. I thought they were.
He looks a bit like a bus conductor or something with that This is the same guy, isn't it? With the little headpiece on and holding like something in it.
He's got. I think he may have a beer or something. Oh, he's got an ice cream cone.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's an ice cream cone. Anyway, and then next to Larry Bear, we have miniature hippos. These are from Mish Mish. Amy Fluffytail Bunny is the current username of the creator of these. And what's particular, this is another case where the packaging that people are putting their stuff in is as impressive as the objects are. This little guy and his little swimming pool came in the box that's right next to him. It's just as exotic and interesting as the items are. Now, immediately behind that is this round's items by a firm called Contraptions, and Contraptions creates music boxes that have a steampunky sort of look to them. Well, this is actually the thing that makes the music, but what's parked on the front of it is the first installment of a train set. This is a musical train, and apparently there's a track you can get, and you have to get it. You have to get the engine piece in order to have a train that will move around on the track. But if you get the entire set and you get them in the correct order, there's apparently a hidden switch on one of those trains that will play yet a different tune. So there's many more hours of fun to be had on that front.
So is it the same pipe organ, as it were, with a different train in each, or is it actually a different organ and different train?
I think it's a different organ.
Oh, right, okay.
But I think what happens is that once you get enough to get the train track, that you can put them on the train track, and the train track has the musical piece of the scripting, which is in the little organ that it sits on as a singleton. So I'm looking forward to exploring that one a ways more. Now, for those who have had entirely too much cute, to the next to that is a large object, and the contraption, by the way, Walton F. Wainwright is the current username for the person who is behind the contraptions. Anyway, next to that is the Spud, and the Spud is part of a gotcha collection of dystopian items. And that's so that you know that there's something in there for everyone. It's not all terribly hopelessly cute. And the creation, let's see, let me find my notes here. The Spud is the store name is Breno, Breno, and the creator is Alpha Wolf 19. Just, very, very lovely Blender or Maya mesh work in all of this. Now, switching over to the other side of the stage, we have a couple more items. On the ground in front, whenever the camera gets over there, there's a racing beetle who is actually, and this is one of, there's a good dozen or more in the gotcha with different paint jobs. And these you can ride around on and race with, and apparently they work on it. There's one of the racetrack systems that these work with. And their little legs move when you're on them, which is fun to see. And those are from Organica. Now, you may know Organica is one of the places that makes really cool trees. Well, Organica has gotten into various kinds of critters, and also makes avatars. So critter type avatars. So this is from that designer, whose name is Aki. Inworld name is Aki Shichiroji. I won't even try to butcher it. And then on the stage you'll see a double-decker bus, and this is actually a cardboard bus, which is part of a gotcha collection of cardboard vehicles from Mad P. And they're all sorts of different vehicles, and you get a group of your friends together, and and you wear these. And they resize themselves, so they're sized appropriately to your avatar. And apparently you can play a game of tag with them, which sounds pretty fun. One of the other ones, I picked up a couple, and the other one I got one of the rares, which is a helicopter. Cardboard helicopter. So there you have it. And again, packaging is just I just put the packaging there in front of it, which has little scissors and everything on it. And in fact, it's not just that's not a picture. That's not a flat picture. That's actually a 3D.
3D. Yeah.
Which is just great fun.
Yeah, great box.
Yeah, it's just, as I say, that it's rare that you get a plain box anymore on these items. And then sitting in front of me, we have yet one more critter. We have a panda who's drinking looks like a grape soda, and he's part of a little collection of pandas. And they're actually considerably smaller than that when you unpack them, but I made them bigger to make it a little easier on camera. And lest I forget, one more. I told you there was a lot of really cool stuff, and this is, this is barely scratching the surface. You'll have to go check it out yourself. Sitting on the books next to the puppy, we have a uni kiwi, part of a kiwi collection, and this one happens to have a unicorn horn. And the kiwis they'll wander around if you let them. This one is set to stand, but it moves its head up and down and winks. So you can do things besides just look at them. They will wander around your land if you let them. So anyway, so that's all stuff from.
Can I slightly interrupt? Because I've been following around tracking with my camera while I've been listening to you actually. And is the other boxes of apples and this cart of milk part of the bird thing?
They're part of the bird thing, yeah.
Oh,
they're
I
bird
see.
props.
Right.
Yeah, they're bird props.
Obviously the tree.
And the tree.
Yeah, but how about these other trees at the back of the stage, or have they been there?
That's decor, and those are actually from Heart Garden. The baskets, the hanging baskets.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, those have been up there for a while.
Okay, shows how observant I am, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, Heart Garden has, being one of the long-standing plant resources in Second Life going back eons, has gotten into mesh, and these baskets, and there's some wonderful window boxes as well that they've done this year that are done in mesh. So like one of these baskets has a land impact of 5. Right? You can have a bunch of these around and not eat up very many prims, which is really nice. Which is why people are doing so much in mesh, because you can have things that are incredibly involved that have a land impact of 2, 5, 1, 8 or 10 maybe. But anyway, that's just cool stuff. Let's see, and I just have a couple of other items to toss in here. Pathfinder, our good friend Pathfinder, John Pathfinder Lester, is editing an academic journal on using virtual reality as an educational tool, and is seeking contributors. It's called the International Journal on Innovations in Online Education, and will be published by Bagel House. It's Begell, not Bagel. It's organized in an area, a bunch of subtopic areas called streams, and of course, the one on that relates to virtual reality is the one that John is honchoing. You can get more details and find out how to contact him to contribute at his blog. His blog is Be Cunning and Full of Tricks, all run together as one word.com.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. Congratulations, Maria. You managed to make it into Hamlet's blog this week.
Oh, gosh.
For your long list of coverage on virtual world-related communities on Google+. And I'll let you take that further if you wish. The other item that caught my attention, again from Hamlet's, apparently there's been quite a bit of kerfluffle in the Second Life blogs around a WordPress DMCA takedown of Second Life images, basically exposing thorny, ambiguous issues around virtual IP. Apparently, somebody blogged about a WordPress removing a Second Life screenshot due to a DMCA claim. earlier this week, and there's been an ongoing discussion back and forth. And I'll refer you to Hamlet's blog to read the particulars and follow that story if you're interested. And that's all for me for now.
Oh, very good. Well, wonderful show and tell, I must say. we're no eat your vegetables today.
Yeah, no eat your vegetables today. No, I didn't even get to that.
Fair enough.
Didn't
fair
get to
enough.
that point. I was too busy putting out show and tell.
I must say, it's great to be sitting on the stage with all the stuff around me. I was just grabbed Cinders to see if she was around. It's like being on Happy Hunting, just standing there with all this stuff around you, and here's this, and here's this, and it's all this wonderful stuff that we find here, there, and everywhere. I've yet to.
Well, and it's kind of a challenge because this wasn't everything by a long shot. And so I mean, pick and choose.
It's funny. Over in our maid studio, on the Hypergrid, we've got a separate stage for show and tell, and yet we've hardly ever been able to find anything to show and tell yet. But in fact, there is an event, a show and tell event that happens at the moment. No, it's not Wednesdays. Forget what day it's on. It's called WIR or something, and. I keep getting invited to an animated a chap called Jeremy, who publishes films a lot of video, has been putting some of them up, and I've been reposting on Google Plus. There've been a few people moaning about audio quality and stuff like that, and I have to say that this Second Life stuff is not taking as much care as they used to. But it's great to have a record, if not a transcript of the thing, and people are just turning up, builders and stuff, and they're sort of showing them. It's a show and tell thing for what people are doing on the Hypergrid, basically, and great fun that is. So maybe in future weeks I'll have to find a way of filling our show and tell stage, a little special or something. At the moment I'm just filling out my regions with them. Anyway, just before we go on, I've quickly switched, since we are in Second Life, I've switched over to my other Twitter feed, which is twitter.com/Malburns, or one word, _writer, which of course is my Second Life avatar name over here. Caitlin Tobias has posted today on the Cyprian Garden. Again, CaitlinTobias.com. But again, if you go to that Twitter feed I just mentioned, you can follow the links in there. Otherwise, we'll be here all day while reading them out. In Arape has a feature on a fractal metropolis in Second Life. The creator of this is somebody who's a big name on fractals and stuff, but it's a whole sort of big series about population densities in cities, and I haven't been there, but I gather it's all explored in sort of fractal type way. Experienced somewhere called Mizu, M-I-Z-U, a rainy story in Second Life. That was, I guess, on Macmillan's post today before she had to stop her. Ziki Questi also has an article at QuestiBlogs.com on Metropolis 2, which is the same as in ours on Fractal Metropolis. New edition of the Sugarlicious, I love the title of this, the Sugarlicious Me talk show. I think I posted this a couple of days ago, but it only seems to have gotten into my feed today, which is a bit odd. And obviously yesterday a brand new edition of Happy Hunting 2. So this particular blog you will find is just jam-packed with YouTube videos. I just sort of like them at YouTube, and they automatically get posted through. So there's just hundreds of videos there. Lyndon Laz produced their weekly highlights of the highlights from the Second Life Destination Guide. Again, that was earlier today or last night. I misread this. There was from Manoa Pay. It's I thought it said the return of the Chippendales. To Second Life, but actually the full title is The Return of the Chippen Snails for Relay for Life in Second Life. You better just read it now if you want to find out about what chippen snails are. I'm not going to go there. Right. Now, I had her earlier, actually, because it occurred to me somebody who's never actually been on the show at all is, I think her name is Lanai, as opposed to Lani Jericho, who's behind something like newspaper called the SL Inquirer. I post quite a lot of their stuff in the lifestyle feed. Some of the fashion-y sponsored stuff I don't, but they have some very good articles there. And they're actually celebrating the birthday of sorts. But they had a post this morning, Stop the Press, a sneak look behind the scenes of the SL Inquirer. So one of their reporters has actually done a report on how they kind of operate behind the scenes, which for those of you curious about such things, maybe worth checking out. And another post from them today was SL 2.0, FUD for thought, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that was a kind of interesting report on, I suppose, what I can best describe as the mood of the users in Second Life as far as a new platform from Linda Labs is concerned. Obviously, some excitement about what might be coming, and other people a bit panicked because something might sort of take everything what they got. The usual stuff, in other words. Right, and SL Newser, actually it's SL Newser, blogspot.com, that's actually, it's his birthday. And he's published an article called Real Life Businesses in Second Life, brackets 2008. Now, this contrary to what I saw when I first saw it, it's not actually a reprint, of articles from their history. It's actually a kind of look back at the heyday of, shall we say, business interest in Second Life, when the company was jumping in to a penny, and I don't usually know any clue what they were doing or what they were getting into. But that's life, isn't it? Isn't it, Debs? Or the so-called real life businesses who jump into Second Life and they really don't know what they're getting into, basically. Anyway, lots more videos there too. I'm scanning down all of these. There's just far too many to pick up on, so I'm going to be just getting to any particular destinations here. Yeah, there was one film that came up, the Second Life Machinima Festival Winter 2015 highlights. That is actually a Japanese event, as well as ABTV and all the people that do machinima events in the Western world. The Japanese have a few of them too, and that was a Japanese one, which another highlight reel up there. New edition of the Angry and Honorary talk show, this week as well. And let's see. Actually, this one's actually open soon related. There was a nice video, Take a Ride to Acme City. This was posted by Leighton Marjoram, I think is her name is. There's quite a few videos popping up about open soon destinations now, which is great. Going on down again. Yes, I did the San Diego Comic-Con. Yes, SL News are having their 5th birthday celebration. So Daniel Boydger at WordPress.com covered that. I could have sworn SL News have been around longer. He seems to have been around since I joined Second Life. That was a lot more than 5 years ago, but maybe it was only 5 years. Several new issue things, again, they're in my Tumblr blog that ended up with Twitter, from Issue, ISSUU is the online publishing site. Models SL magazine, issue 25, by Bonifacio, in fact, it's out this week. So is the May June magazine of Love to Decorate, which is one of, I've forgotten his name now. He used to do news. Debs, you know him. What's his name? The guy who used to do news. He had a house in London at one point. It's a Brit.
Which one? There's plenty of them.
I forget. He did a video daily for ages, and then moved on. But he's got a magazine called Love to Decorate now.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good.
The name has just gone blank on me for some strange reason, I should know. Also, the June issue of a magazine called Photography is out. It's published on this year. It's just called Photography, but it is all virtual world photography, despite not having that in the title. There's a standalone thing as issue, the Gibson Legacy by Free Wing Lee. Many of you know Free Wing Lee in Second Life as an artist and whatever. And the Gibson Legacy is talking about is literally written a magazine come book on Gibson guitars in Second Life. And they were here. Yes, they were selling their guitars virtually here because they didn't attempt to sell real life guitars outside of here. June 2015. Yeah, there's another one by Jamie Mills, but it hasn't got the title. Right, there's 2 more magazines up there anyway, so if you want to look. Linden Arts, blogspot.com had a few posts of their own. One is about an exhibition by Art Blue at LEA 14 called The Dice. And SL Newser again had an interview with a musician from Second Life called Fretz Nirvana, quite an in-depth interview there. Gateways can be an opening to a wonderful new adventure. Yes, we want to check the stream for that. Yeah, I also post photos on this blog that I like, things from taking stuff I look at. There's a very nice looking sim I came across called The Vineyard. In Our Pay has an article on artistic collaboration in Second Life, and more YouTube. Too much YouTube really, but some people's count. And down the list we go. One Vimeo. Again, in Our Pay earlier in the week, wakeboarding and parasailing in Second Life. And the SL Inquirer had an article on visiting virtual Africa. Debbie Sharma reporting on that one. And on Macmillan had a piece on where nobody wants to hurt you in Second Life. That's a nice thought, isn't it, really? Torben Asp at Music Island, great performer there. Oh yes, Exploring the Dirty Grind and Jasmine's Hollow. That was at slgovernmarley.com. 2 locations basically, the Dirty Grind and Jasmine's Hollow. Jasmine's Hollow looked very nice indeed. And that's, gosh, there's so many here. I've only gone back 3 days, so I think actually I'm going to leave it. Oh, yes. An Inworld artist called Toy Soldier Thor has a new exhibit open. There's an article about it as Al Dragamash for press.com. Oh, and there was a lot of fuss about, Tara, remember this for sure, the golden age of the Russian avant-garde. Which was an exhibit in Second Life some time ago, and is it Tutsi? I forget his full name. The guy who made an actual video about it, but it's just popped up again on Vimeo, and it's actually a completely reworked video about the same project, and well worth a watch. Very memorable that was. In Our Pay has visionary tales in Second Life, and she also has a thing on small town living in Second Life, the environments that try to capture the, principally small town America kind of feel. And yes, down we go. Tell me when to stop somebody. There's too many of these things. I'm going to leave it there. That goes about 4 days, so unless I come across something absolutely more striking, I'll leave it there for now. While we're still on Second Life, and before we move into the greater metaverse, I'll just bring you in, if I may, Debs. Firstly, welcome to the show. We'll talk about what you're doing on Navigation and stuff later, when Maria's giving us a roundup on hypergrid business and stuff. But just thought I'd ask you, while we're still on Second Life itself, as it were, how things are going with Virtual London, of course, and your activities here in Second Life, as opposed to the greater metaverse. And you do like that bear, don't you? I can tell.
Yeah, I seem to be touching that bear. I mean, I don't know why I've got this thing about bears, but, you never know. And birds. Look, that little birdie flew in front of me.
Obviously, all the critters like you, so you're in good hands.
Well, it's the park, you see. In Hyde Park, we've got loads of people and loads of critters, and they all flock there. Yeah, it's great. I mean, Hyde Park's busy as ever. We've got burlesque coming on oh gosh, I've got a calendar somewhere, but we've got a burlesque show coming along soon, which is really, really tasteful. Then we've got an Italian singer. We're doing big events now in the park, which people seem to be liking, and that's kind of fun. We've got shops, obviously, which are doing very well. We've got a fabulous shop there. We've got Chunique, which are the shoes are to die for. They really are. And obviously we've got other shops. We've got Danica and other shops like that, which is all fantastic. So it's nice to have the big shops there, and some of the little ones. We've got a few gacha places. I know you were talking about gacha earlier. We've got some gacha places which people like. We've got plenty of homes. We've got mansions, and people like being there, and they love the community and love being residents, and yeah, it's kind of cool. It's nice.
How many students are you up to now in the complex, so to speak?
How many what? Sorry.
How many regions have you got now in the complex?
3.
Oh,
3.
Right, okay. That's not
Yeah.
why I thought you had a big feeling you expanded beyond that, but I guess you're like me, you just damn a lot in there.
Well, yeah, we did have 5, but 5 was a lot.
Yeah.
And one was adult, and the adult theme didn't really work with the London theme. London's about friendliness and being with your friends and having fun and having a laugh, and the adult is more about adult play.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you just have a hole in the region where Soho is, and get them to teleport to somewhere else on Zindri if they really want it.
Well, it's funny, people don't like to fornicate where their friends are.
I can imagine that. I mean, it's probably like that dirty little secret that is psychology, isn't it? You want to go off to part of the group where nobody knows you and nobody is possibly going to come, and then sort of, shall we say, go out on the town, so to speak, or something. Yeah, I can sort of believe that. It's like people go on. In the real world, you can imagine people, go on business trips, and they people's attitudes suddenly change when they're far from home and nobody knows them.
Yes. They go to those little houses.
Yeah, they got to all sorts of tricks and stuff. But that's wonderful. I'm keen to hear on about the also the virtualization that's over in Navigation, but we'll come back to that, I think, after Maria's rounded up other stuff out on the greater work. So, without further ado, hello again, Maria, and over to you for all the other good business news and everything else.
Well, hello again, Mal. So, let's see. What's been happening this week? You mentioned the community thing. I'd like to do that, check in once a month to see what's been happening with the OpenSim communities. And I'm a little worried about them because of the changes that have been happening with Google+. So, there's a lot of rumors about what's going to happen with Google+. It is a giant social network, so if it was owned by any other company, it would be a huge success, and there's no way they would shut it down. But because it's owned by Google and it doesn't own the world, so it's no good.
It's funny. It's funny. I mean, Tara mentioned she's obviously got a lot from Hamlet's blog this week earlier, but I did actually, I did scan the occasional bits of Hamlet's thing, and I think the opening of his blog was something about that. For all of you who are on Twitter and Facebook, you might not know that there's another network out there called Google Plus, and that was his intro to your listing. I thought a bit late to the game here, aren't we? But yeah, I love Google Plus. I mean, I post everything to do with the metaverse generally, and the hybrids there. I mean, I often Twitter it too, but things like your Hyperica and stuff, I put there, and there's a good community there. People repost there and stuff more often than they even do on Twitter, I find.
I like it because it's my favorite social platform right now. Um, I like it because you have communities of interest, which you can't do on Twitter. I mean, you can create lists, and I've done that for certain things, but it's really hard. You can't just go on Twitter and say what's happening on OS Grid and pull up that community. Whereas you can follow that community on Google Plus. I like the fact it's integrated with Gmail, so you can post your answers right there in Gmail, which is handy. I find it really convenient because I use Gmail for my corporate email accounts, so it's very useful. And of course, it allows anonymous logins. You can use your avatar name, so that distinguishes it from Facebook. And I love it, and it has so many features. It's so easy to use. It's so much fun to use that it's not a surprise that it's been growing.
It's actually something I'm quite keen on in terms of like this show, which I put on YouTube. The film of this show will be up tomorrow morning on YouTube. And I've noticed it doesn't actually matter whether people comment in the YouTube page on the show, or where they where they comment on the embed in Google Plus. Through Google Plus, I actually end up getting posts about all the posts, if you see what I mean. So I often kind of have to do a double take to figure out now, is this message being sent via YouTube or via Google Plus, because they all get mixed up. But it's a great way of monitoring what people are talking about when it comes to our show.
So, right. So the biggest growing community, the community that added the most members is again the adult metaverse. So again, I like to remind people, if you think there's no interest in adult stuff in OpenSim, you are so totally wrong. There's a lot of interest in there. And the largest community is, of course, OpenSim Virtual. So if you want to interact with a large number of people throughout OpenSim, if you have a question to ask, if there's resources you're looking for, you go to OpenSim Virtual first. And if it's adult related, you go to the adult metaverse first. But there's so many communities. The list I'm following is getting longer and longer every month as people email me new ones. Almost every grid has its own Google Plus community. There's a lot of special interest groups out there. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot, and I recommend that other people do it too.
I think if people actually root around under the surface too, you can control Google Plus very well, unlike a Facebook or even a Twitter, in my opinion. They're different things, but
right.
You can get notifications. You can monitor a lot of groups, communities they're called, but you can decide whether you get notifications from the main feed and stuff like that. So I'm just, I've signed up to just far too many now, but I mean, I get immediate monitoring of a few selected ones, and then others I go to Flipboard and see what the general chat is. So I monitor it in two ways. It's very adaptable.
Yeah, lots of fine-grained controls. The downside to Google Plus, as to Facebook or Inworld groups, is that if you create one of these groups, you do not own the list of members, and you do not own the content in that group. So it's a very risky thing to set up. Google can close down that group for any reason at any time, and you will have lost everything in it. And this holds true for Facebook groups, and this holds true for Second Life groups, and this holds true for groups in any OpenSim grid. If you put all your eggs in the basket of that one group, there's no guarantee that that group is going to survive, or if they're going to change the TOS, or some weird thing that the social network will do, or if the grid will go out of business. And the whole group vanishes, poof, like it never existed. So if you are a business, and in fact, there was an article that one of our guest contributors just had for us, Rose Freeland, about having a virtual fashion business. And she talks about how the group that you create for your business is one of the most valuable things you have. It's also one of the things that is really risky. And traditional businesses, offline businesses, what they do is They will use the social networks for marketing, but they will also have a separate email list for their customers, because if the social network shuts down your account, you still have that email list of all your contacts, and ideally you'll have more information on your customers than just an email list. And because if you're a merchant, you might have multiple ways to reach them.
This is kind of worried me for some time, actually. I mean, partly you've got all these corporations that own the groups and stuff like that who are harvesting information, amazing amounts of it, but also the fact that all this cloud stuff, I mean, it can stop being functional, in the back end, or it can disappear completely, and it just is unreliable. And I'm forever, every few months I'm going through everything. I think, I'm using my Tumblr blog for a lot now with video, because I can't use that one that I was using a few months ago anymore, and it's constantly having to rejig. The thing I actually find the big companies, the Yahoo's, Tumblr, and Google Plus, tend to be the most reliable, because they're they're big, they're not going anywhere overnight. But it's everything in the cloud is really a bit of a gamble.
Yes. Now I'm speaking from a standpoint of view of a business owner. So yes, there's privacy issues if you're a consumer, but for a business owner, the life of your business depends on your customers. Your customer list is how you notify them of new events, of new sales. It's how you ask them about potential new products, how you survey them. If you sell your business, the customer list is actually your biggest asset, not your virtual world creations. I mean, you can buy virtual world creations at any corner for, pennies, but a customer list is really, really valuable. These are people who are willing to spend money on certain items. I mean, that's gold. That's gold. So that's where I'm coming from, because business is in like my name, and I want people to have successful businesses, and it's really hard to have a successful business if you don't own the customer relationship.
Yeah.
So that's something really tricky. How do you get your customer to trust you enough to give you their contact information? And especially when your customer is intermediated, like through the Kitely market, or through Second Life Marketplace, or through the grid system, where you don't know who the customer is. All you know is the avatar name, if you even know that.
Does anybody know? I don't know whether Tara would know, but I've seen a lot of blog posts that I haven't covered them. It's too indulgent for me. But the new the user managed Second Life marketplace. From what I could see of the snapshots and things, I got the impression that possibly gives users, both sellers and buyers, a bit more control over the relationship.
Yeah, but still, if Second Life closes down that particular user account on you,
of course.
you lose all that stuff. That's what I mean. That it's very, if you own an email list that it's on your computer, your customer names, their Twitter accounts, whatever. If you have that on your computer, you own that. I mean, you have backups of it. It's yours. If you want to send out an email to all your customers, you could do that. If you want to ask them questions, you can do that, and nobody can take that away from you. You can shut down my account. You could shut down my website. I might have to move to a different website provider. But I can move my grid. I can move my region. I can move my store from one marketplace to another grid. But those customers, that's what I'm. And this is a big concern, because I don't know what people are going to do. I really don't know what the answer is, because people in the virtual world do not want to give up their contact information. So the only thing you can do is put them in a group, and that group can disappear any moment. So it's something to worry about.
To be honest, I mean, I do. I personally, I like instant messaging because email takes so much time. But But yeah, you get a lot of these things where people are offered disposable email addresses just to do transactions and then disappear again. So I'm not entirely sure how reliable even an email database is these days.
Yeah,
Can I
but
just, can I just make a comment here?
Yeah,
I think you're forgetting the strength of brand. You know, if somebody's got a really strong brand, their customers will find them wherever. I mean, I mentioned Shunique before. I mean, she's got a hugely strong brand. And, you know, people will look for something where they recognize the brand, they know the quality. And if they go to other virtual worlds, they'll see and want the same sort of brand and quality there. Just want to throw that one in.
Right. If you spam your customers, then you don't deserve to have an email list. You should be offering the customers some value for subscribing, sales, announcements that they're interested in. If you can't offer customers something that they will actually value, then why bother setting up an email list? Like you said, they will give you a fake email address to avoid your spam. Or they'll subscribe immediately.
Yeah. You were about to say something, Tara?
Oh, well, I was just going to agree with Maria that there's definitely an advantage for having your own email list of customers, for the very reasons she cites. That there's email addresses come and go just like physical addresses do, but it's still short of you not having it backed up and crashing your hard drive and it's only in one place. You aren't at the mercy of an external provider.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment here? We're talking about virtual worlds here, and most people are, they like their anonymity.
Yeah.
They don't want you to view their email address. So, I've mentioned brand because, it's the only way out of it. Collecting a huge customer list. Well, okay. That was a great idea, but are you going to get it?
You can't really. You're right. I agree with you. You can't do the virtual worlds. So
well, and there's also, just as one of the issues, just to hit the other side of the fence here, that you mentioned was what if somebody has their avatar yanked out from under them? Well, what I notice is most serious creators who are doing who are merchants have more than one account that they use for their business. And so if they've got any sense, all of those accounts are going to be connected with their Inworld groups, are going to have full rights on their Inworld groups, are going to have full rights to be able to access if they're using the independent subscribo features, options that there's a couple, 2 or 3 of those around that enable people to get messages and notices about sales and what have you without tying up a group.
I think Debs raised something estimated there, which is the brand loyalty and things like that.
Absolutely.
Which is I think that's the other half of the equation, because for the business doing their sales pitch and contacting their customers, obviously that is PR, it's outreach. You want a big database of people to contact. But the other approach, of course, is to create a sort of viral brand loyalty where you can be pretty much guaranteed your customers will also search you out even if you have to move. So I think both happen.
If you are the Apple of your particular niche, that's what you should be doing: building up an offline brand, a website, which with all the links to where people can find you in all the different worlds and all the different media and all the different social platforms. So if anybody loses track of where you are, they will Google you, you'll come right up. But not everybody is an Apple. There's, for the majority of companies, they're marginal. I mean, their customers kind of like them and will buy stuff for them if they're reminded or if they happen to be there, but they don't really go out of the way to seek them out, because you only have so much brain space for brands, and Apple fills up most of it. And so that leaves like little corners here and there for other brands. And there are a lot of different brands in virtual worlds. So it's tough. I would not want to be in that it's a really tough business to be in. Yeah.
Debs, you had another quick comment, did you?
Well, I was just going to say, it's really about quality. You know, if you sell a good product at a good price, you have happy customers, they tell their friends, you know, oh, look at this, this is great. You know, it's got this detail on, didn't expect that for that price. And then their friends come along, and it's all, I mean, that's what builds a brand, is happy customers, you know, so yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say. And this is true in the real world as well as, and it's cutthroat, Maria. I totally agree with you. And it's the same in real world. You know, the real world is cutthroat too. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Okay,
let's move on to other stuff this week. The other big news this week is that Kitely cut its prices, the top 2 tiers, by 60%. So this is a pretty big deal because unlike some of the other grids that offer, say, $3 regions, Kitely has an incredibly long track record. Incredibly long. Ha ha ha. Like, what is it, 3-4 years? Anyway, so they have this track record of excellent stability. I don't remember any time where Kitely has gone down that it wasn't for a planned upgrade that was a few minutes that they let everybody know ahead of time for weeks. So they have an excellent reputation for stability, for scalability. So so aside from the fact that you have to wait a few seconds for a region to load if it's empty when you teleport in, they have an excellent reputation for performance. And so it used to be that the most expensive plan was around $100 a month, and you can configure it as 16 standard regions. Now it's down to just $40 a month for up to 16 regions, which is like a little over $2, $2 or $3 a region when you divide it out. So excellent deal. The medium price went down from 50 to 20, and it allows for an island up to 4 regions in size, with 60,000 prims that you can divide up among as any way you want to. So it averages out to 20 divided by 4, $5 a region, 15,000 prims a region, which is an excellent deal. And if you want to just get one region, it stays at $50 a month. All the metered plans, all the premium memberships, if you didn't get one in last week, that's it. You no longer have a chance to do that. All they have is the new flat prices. And they're explaining it that it really confused customers. And some of the customers have commented that they were not confused at all. But I am super confused. I was super confused by their prices. And so I do not like to think of myself as a particularly dumb person. But if I'm a typical customer, their premium level, their free level, their the metered things that were free for other premium member, it was just so confusing. And they changed the way the metering worked several times. And anyway, so right now it is a much simpler, clearer system. So I can see why they did it. And it seems to be working there because they're one of the biggest grids.
Yeah, they've been announcing a lot of changes recently. But I'm hoping Gillian can tell us more next week when you know.
Oh yeah, he's going to be here. Elon, yes. So that's that'll be fun to see what they've got coming up next, because they've been putting in a lot of effort into communities. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but the new Google Cardboard has come out, and I posted a story about where to get the new Google Cardboard cases. They're slightly different than the old ones. They're a little bigger. The button works differently, and they work on the iPhone. So if you've been waiting to buy one of those cases, well, there's some options there for you already. And my writer, freelancer Tyler, posted an article with some VR apps for Android phones that use the Google Cardboard. And that story is up on the site. I already mentioned the 5 Principles for Virtual Fashion Success by Rose Freelance. Some very practical suggestions for somebody launching a virtual fashion business. Avination is holding a benefit for a tolerance group today. And also today, there was something going on the Festa-V starts today on Franco Grid, yes. So definitely stop by and see what kind of new avatars have been donated to the community. And they don't donate to the entire Hypergood community, so you can pick them up and take them anywhere. And they're Creative Commons licensed, so it should be a lot of fun to check out if you go there. Okay, what else? Lenovo is getting into the virtual headset game with their own headset. So it looks like everyone is getting in there. And PETA was using the Google Cardboards in a SeaWorld protest to give people the sense of what it's like to be an orca. And PETA is a controversial organization. Timothy of ZetaMex pointed out that they have a high kill rate at their shelters, which is kind of a sad thing to hear about from an organization supposed to protect animals. But it is a cool way of using virtual reality. And finally, the last thing that I did was I finally took a mesh into Blender, edited it, saved it, and brought it into OpenSim. And it took so much work to figure out these settings. Oh my God. But I wrote it down. I kept excellent notes, and I posted it all in an article. So if somebody wants to learn Blender by editing existing meshes, all the instructions are out there.
That's a difficult way to do it. Really is. Well done.
I was going to say, Tara's been at work this week as well.
Yeah, but I'm coming at it from the opposite direction. At the moment, I'm coming at it from the ground up direction, and successfully created a set of stairs and brought them in World. And it didn't take me hours.
All right.
Yeah. I think Blender's quite interesting. I mean, I come from ZBrush, so ZBrush was the tool I used to use, and Maya. And coming to Blender, it's nice to actually have a free tool, because you're thinking, oh, thank goodness, something that I don't have to sort of pay a fortune for, and they're going to drop upgrades on me, and it's like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah. That's right.
The only thing that I couldn't do was I couldn't edit clothing. I mean, I could edit it, and I could see where the rigging was there. You had those little weird things that look like arrowheads, sticking into the middle of the clothes, which I assume is the muscle rigging, the motion rigging. But when I try to get it into OpenSim, the rigging would disappear. And nobody so far has been able to help me figure out what the setting is to save that rigging when you save the mesh file.
Have you got Avastar?
No.
You kind of need that, really, if you're doing rigging for clothing and stuff like that in Second Life, or anything like that. I
was really, really hoping that I could take a mesh that's already rigged, tweak it a little bit, move the collar up and down, and then just save it.
Nice idea.
Well, there's probably something in the export options.
That's what I'm thinking. That there's something in export options that I wasn't checking. And that,
I wish.
And people in the comments were saying, "Oh, you need to get this plugin and this tool and that tool," and I haven't been able to find easy tutorials for any of those tools. So my worry is that all those tools are for people who already know how to do this, to make their workflow easier, as opposed to make it easier for a beginner to get started. So instead of learning one thing, I'll be having to learn 2 different things, both of which are a nightmare. So
I think what you have to keep in mind, Maria, is that by starting with clothing, You're starting in the deep end of the pool. You have thrown yourself in the deep end of the pool. That's why I created some stairs,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's no rigging involved. It's just a bunch of boxes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the best way I would say is if you go on YouTube, there's some great videos there. There are some great videos. And if you start with something, there's one guy who starts, I mean, I tell everybody to go to this. He starts with a coffee cup. And it might seem very simple, but when you come later and you're doing clothes, you've got to do things like snapping, and there's a lot to do. So if you start that and learn it that way, that's a really good way to start and to get proficient in the different tools.
Well, I actually took a step back and I uploaded a fence. And I edited that fence, and that's the one I wound up putting it back into OpenSim. That's what working. Except I forgot to buy I forgot to get one of the supports. I now have 4 bars and only 3 supports. So yeah, I missed, because I was looking at it from the front. I didn't bother looking at it from the back. Then from the back, it's really obvious that I messed it up. But so that's what I wound up doing, because a fence has no rigging. But what I really want to do is I want to change the hemlines on skirts. That's like the only thing I want to do. The only thing I want to do. I don't want to do anything else.
And you want to dive in the deep end to get there? I should point out to listeners actually that if any of you didn't see last week's show, we did actually have an extended chat Melanie and Tara and everybody else on Mesh, which was quite enlightening. We haven't got into a specific subject like that for so long,
right?
In quite a while, so it was rather interesting. But bringing Debs into the conversation, although she's been in it a bit.
Yeah.
Before we move to Nation, actually, I'm surprised. How long have you been using Blender?
Who, me?
Yeah.
This is my second try.
Debs.
Oh, Debs.
Oh, me. Just over a year now.
Oh, right. Well, that's
just doing bits and pieces, and I don't know, making all sorts of rubbishy pieces. I mean, I don't sell my stuff. That's the thing. I just do London stuff, and just make it for, like you say, for Avanation. And I don't actually upload much into Second Life, to be honest. But
yeah, and you're in high fidelity, aren't you? So
yes,
you're I mean, the requirements there at Mesh too as well. So
yes, it's actually FBX there. It's a different kind of format, but yeah.
Won't have enough.
What inspired you to go into Blender, should I say? Because a lot of people say they don't go and look at it and oops.
It's just that everybody uses Blender. So it seems, I'm busy working away in ZBrush, and I'm modeling and making sort of statues and things like that and other bits and bobs. And I get something wrong, and I just, where do I turn? But if you use Blender, there's a huge Blender community. There's loads and loads of plugins. So you've got a much larger user base, as far as I'm aware, that you can tap into to help you and to assist you. Even in Second Life, there's lots of Blender groups in Second Life, for example. So that's why.
Exactly. Same here.
Interesting. Well,
plus Blender is free.
Yes,
I wish I'd known that before I bought ZBrush.
Free is, don't you understand? Compared with ZBrush or Maya and the price tag on those, I mean, you have to have serious dollars or be working in a corporation that puts the bill for that software.
My hope is that the same thing will happen to 3D modeling as happened to photo retouching. Because everybody's taking their photos on an iPhone now, everybody is like become their own photo editor, and we have things like Instagram, which if you wanted to do one of these things with Photoshop, it would be super, super difficult. But it packages it up, so you do it with one click, so it's really easy. You have a whole bunch of online photo editing tools that take the things that most people want to do most often and make them really, really easy and get rid of all the stuff that's complicated and have the computer do it. And maybe the computer won't do it the best possible way, like Melanie was saying. It's not optimized for this and for that. But most people aren't going to care if it's close enough. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I've got a computer full of, I've got Photoshop, I've got Flash, I've got all sorts of stuff that I can do stuff in. And I almost invariably never use them, because I am a big fan of widgets and small apps that do one task and do it well. And I'd like to be able to click on, it means lots of small apps. I'd like to be able to click on one app and I think, oh, that's the app that will convert this for me and make sure it's okay and do this. So
right.
Rather than the mammoth interfaces you have in things like Blender, Photoshop, Flash, and all the big
like if you just want to crop a photograph, GIMP is the single worst program to use. Do you crop a zealous crop? Do you crop the layer, the image? Do you crop the canvas? Do you there's do you crop the selection? And it's all these choices that you don't know which one you're cropping and what's going to turn out. You can just go to
that's also bad news, I think. I mean, that thing about cropping a layer is absolutely daft, because it's you can cut parts of the layer out, but the whole idea of the crop is to crop the canvas. But
it's useful for if you're doing something very specific. It's could be a useful tool to have. And so GIMP throws all the tools you could possibly have for, and so does Blender. There's just so many things. There's 3 different view menus on the home screen of Blender. Which one is the real view?
I think
but it depends.
Blender is the GIMP of 3D modeling, really.
Yeah. The thing to remember, Maria, is, again, you have jumped into the deep end without learning how to dog paddle. Now,
that's how I do it. That's how I
and I do that too. But I think Blender is one. I mean, I have just I bit the bullet. I took a part 1 of a free part 1 2-hour Inworld here in Second Life at Builder's Brewery. That was a basic introduction, a start of an introduction of first of 3 sessions. They just started them on Saturday today. Sessions 2 and 3 of these next 2 Saturdays, I'm going to try to catch those. But in addition to that, I signed up for a brand new Blender Basics class.
Builder's Brewery is very, very good, isn't it, Tara?
Yeah, but the other one I've signed up for, and it's not free. And it's not specific to virtual worlds, but it's offered through Udemy online, and they're actually in a pre-launch phase where the price tag is a third of what it'll be when they have the whole course finished. But I've worked through about 3/4 of it, and they spend most of this first part of it focused on your getting familiar with the very basic. This is what these parts of the layout, the desktop do, what the different views are for, and it's really helped. I mean, it's starting to make sense.
I do remember myself when I was teaching Photoshop, although it was many years ago now. It was a kind of 3-day intensive introduction, but it was basically an overview. Because I tried to put in layman's language what everything was, describe the interface, and go through it in steps, so that I didn't come away after 3 days knowing how to do something in particular. They just hopefully came away with a broad overview of every possibility and the way it worked. And I think that was the tack to take. It seemed to be successful enough.
Well, and if I could draw, Mel, from my experience in years past, where, for example, learning Adobe InDesign, their page layout replacement for PageMaker.
Express.
For PageMaker.
Quark
Express, and Quark too, either one. And I was a PageMaker geek. I've been using PageMaker since PageMaker 1, so I had grown up with PageMaker. And there was at a point where I had to bite the bullet And I spent, I spent a bunch of hours just kind of fiddling around with InDesign, and I hit a point where I was kind of able to flounder. And at that point, I took a class, and and because I knew there was a bunch of stuff in there that I was going to find helpful once I had figured out some basics. And I think that's very true with Blender too. Is get some basics under your belt, mess around some more, then think about taking something else to pick up other pieces. But it's I know that the whole business of rigging and all that is I mean, right now all I'm concerned about is, can I put prims together, can I put objects together, can I do all this distortions, can I get them in World in a fashion that doesn't take 6,495 vertices, and
then you've got the texturing and the occlusion and all that stuff.
Yes, can I texture them?
Yay! Well done.
And create a texture map that I can take into Photoshop and create different textures for the same object.
Brilliant. So and diffuse and normal and specular, and it gets so complicated.
Yeah, well, then there's some of that I understand already because I've been using Photoshop forever. Yay. But but still, it's like saying, okay, here's a manageable kind of piece that enabled me to kind of get my foot in the door. And once you got your foot in the door, then you can say, okay, well, it's obvious that there's all these different things. So start with things that don't move, and then worry about things that do.
Okay, well, I think we'll continue the weekly episode. The weekly mesh episode department is going to continue. I'm quite sure of it, so at least some weeks. I want to go back.
We can call this the Eat Your Mesh Vegetables segment.
Or we make a mesh segment. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to Debs though, because
I want to hear what's going on with Debs and London.
Yeah, we have basically there's two things we haven't touched on here. First of all, firstly, I'm quite keen to hear how it's going in navigation. And secondly, I'm quite keen to know if you're active on any of the Agile Hypergrid enabled grids. And thirdly, I did touch on it a second ago because I know, of course, that you're in high fidelity, which of course is no real secret because it's now in open alpha anyway. And you are a destination in there. So I'd love to have an update on all this. I know that we're in Second Life now, but I mean, this show is about many other things other than Second Life, and you've got two platforms there, very different, but with a similar idea behind them.
Yes, they are. Avination is a different beast from Second Life, obviously. They've just had their I think her name's Sophie Lawrence. The Sophie Lawrence what do they call it? Fundraiser.
That's it, yeah.
Because she was basically, what happened was her and her boyfriend were both goths, and they got attacked in the middle, I think it was middle of London, because they were goths. And she died.
Yeah.
So it's all about tolerance, so that they're raising awareness for tolerance at the moment. And I've just come from the event to come here, actually. So
it's been a weird day. They were trying to get me into craft grid for something there, and then I was aware of the Avination thing, but I couldn't actually hypergrid into that. So it's like Second Life. If I can't hyperjump, I don't go there. I want to hyperjump from my regions and then jump back again, and anything that requires closing the viewer and opening up a new one is work, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, that's one thing they're working on is becoming hypergrid enabled.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I there's two grids I've spoken to frequently recently, and that is mainly with Avination and what's the name again? The one with Inworlds. And Inworlds is so far out on a limb now. Even if they wanted to, they can join the hypergrid, even though they do contribute code to the hypergrid. Despite some people arguing they don't, but I'm not going there. But that's because they made the choice to adopt an earlier version of OpenSIM, and then add their own plugins and develop from there, basically, is what it's about. And they can't, there's no going back and just switching on the hypergrid. I know Melanie very much hopes the hypergrid enabled Avination, but she's just worried about a few security things. And, there'll be, it's just when it gets, all the innovations and stability requirements, when they reach a certain point, which I don't think is far off, she'll switch it on, I think.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. But are you on any other grids? Because I remember at one point you were, forgetting High Fidelity for a minute, which is a separate platform. I still remember you were on other places other than Avination, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, we used to have OpenSim, which we didn't, which basically wasn't used. So, it was a case of, well, should we carry on with this or not? No, we'll just shut it down. Avination, we get quite a few visitors there, so it's worth keeping it going. And also we get to build some tremendous builds there, which is really nice.
Yeah, lots of builds and speed.
Yeah, so we've got all sorts. We've got the National Theatre, we've got the City Hall on its way, and we've got Parliament on its way, and we've got Portcullis House. I mean, there's a whole raft of stuff that we're sort of still, but it's such a huge project. It's just going to take time to finish, I'm afraid.
Believe it or not, there is supposed to be I don't think it's called the Great British Grid. I'm going to give you some Great Canada here, but there was an advertised grid, which is, the Brit Grid or something.
Yeah, UK. United Kingdom Grid.
Yeah. And I fell in love with it. I haven't been able to get in there. It's hypergrid enabled, supposedly, but I haven't been able to find a way of getting in there every time I've found the address and tried and stuff like that. Yeah. But I was quite excited to hear about that. I was thinking, but over in Canada, we actually sort of call ourselves the Commonwealth Grid, so that we can include, because we're, there's a lot of Brits in the Commonwealth Grid, or the Canadian Grid. But, what about High Fidelity? Now you've been, I happen to know you've been in there longer than the Open Alpha and everything else like that. How is your building and stuff going over there?
Our building is not online yet. Right. We're sort of keeping it under wraps until we're sort of ready to open it. However, I'm working with other people inside the open part of it. Yeah. People like Kevin, I can't remember what's his surname. Anyway, he's a musician. He does events there, fantastic. And Judas, who is a builder, and he does some great stuff. It's still alpha. People come there and they say, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. And what alpha actually means is you build stuff, it's gone.
Yeah.
So, people are expecting to use it as a usable entity, and it's not really a usable entity. But if you look at the tech and the potential, it's huge.
Yeah.
I wrote an article on the Virtual London, it's called Virtual Londons, which is all about the London news, about, I'm sure Maria was fully aware and had something to say about this as well, and she probably will do in a minute as well. The Google I/O event, Maria, you're obviously keeping up on it, and this Solly thing and the Jacquard and the stuff they've got coming out now. High Fidelity is built to be an immersive experience. When I say that, I mean not keyboards. I mean, headsets.
That's for the mouses, but it will say.
Yeah. Immersive bodysuits, whatever you can use, hydras, whatever you can use, you can touch. And they're actually working, we're working on, well, I'm helping as well. I'm working on this and written a bit of code, gosh, for you manipulating fingers. Here we can't manipulate our own fingers, but in High Fidelity, we can manipulate fingers, we can manipulate arms, there's so many things, and it's all open source, and it's all written in JavaScript, and it's all it's so open and it's so.
What interfaces? By Leap Motion, or is it camera tracking for things like that?
Leap motion, camera, whatever.
Yeah, it combines them all. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got APIs for everything, and that's the thing. You've got a plugin for whatever you need to use. But it's not ready. When it's ready, it will be a showstopper.
Now, have you made plans for like the namespace and stuff like that? I know, for example, I've paid them something for the Metaverse domain, for example. Which, I mean, the idea is you're going to be able to use, rather like the web, you're going to be able to just get people to you.
Yeah.
Rather than the world, So I suppose it's like the portal Second Lifestyles at one point, where London was a chosen portal, and people could register with you and come in that way. But we're Philip. It's from the ground up. It's the namespace and the addressing system is an important part of it too.
And we have to host our own domain space. We have to host, our own asset server. We're actually using something called Digital Cloud. Where we're hosting our, we've got all our stuff there. It's not connected to the grid yet, obviously, as I said, but we're hosting our stuff. We're trying it. We're testing it out, ready to sort of link it in. And
I think a lot of the guys actually testing this at the moment. It's almost like a peer-to-peer thing where they're connecting their own computers and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously, the way to go will be a cloud. Rather than just link your home computer in, you have all your assets permanently online in the cloud somewhere, and then link them into the network.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And domain name, we've got London, of course.
Right. Just London.
Just London.
Oh, well, fair enough. Hey, but Boris won't be happy about it.
Boris bikes.
On your bike, Boris. Yes, on Boris bike. I thought you said first Boris bikes, as in vampire. That's better.
Oh no, Boris bikes, as in his bicycles.
Yeah, I know, but I just suddenly thought Boris bikes might be an appropriate line for something to come to the good.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got anything anywhere else at the moment. I mean, we're waiting for Avination to go hypergrid, obviously.
Yeah.
We have been in Kitely in the past, actually, talking about Kitely before.
Right.
But we hadn't pursued that one. And same with Reaction Grid, we just haven't pursued it.
Well, Reaction Grid went the way of unless you're interested in Unity build, they're on the thing now. But
a couple of years ago.
Yeah. But I mean, my estate grid in Great Canada is actually the Reaction Grid OAR file. It's been drastically changed now, but there's a whole bit of it in the middle, which Tara and I call the Reaction Grid Preservation Zone. It's got the house Tara built for me way back when. And, it's sort of, it's just this little protected area that for historical reasons it can't be changed. It wouldn't be right. And surrounded by a vast array of newness. It's actually the first time I've ever done any building and designing myself. It's as news person, TV and everything, I picked up stuff over 7 years, and I'm just saying away at the time building, probably overbuilding, but I love building, underground.
Well, no, I just have to say something to you now.
Yeah.
It's high time you started with mesh.
I'm waiting until Tara is in a good enough state to give me a 2-minute lesson, and that will be it. No, I have been uploading mesh, and I've got stuff on my hard disk. I've got a little viewer that allows me to view DAE files and things like that offline. Not fully embellished and stuff. And then I look at those and think, I can do something with that. And just as I'm using Sculpties for terraforming, I've used mesh components too. I've just taken the shape basically and walked it into or used it often for something it's not meant to be. Because to me, shapes are wonderful for terraforming. They're just anarchic, and the way nature is. To actually build something, like a building or clothes or something like that, it's a long way off, I think. But I'll dabble, and if I start.
There's some good kits in Second Life. I mean, Zimbalab do a great kit of mesh pieces. And it's all fully perm and all the rest of it. So you can build a building in a Zimbalab. And
unfortunately, I can't build in Second Life and then take it out.
No.
Into open settlements. I don't think I'm in Second Life. Maybe once a month, apart from this show. Wow. Apart from this show, I just don't come here anymore. I keep an eye on things, and I'll come in for a particular thing, but it's few and far between, to be honest. So. What about
the number of Second Life mesh creators who do full perm stuff and have an option for acquiring their DAE files? There's a scattering of clothing, but when you start looking at anything other than clothing, it's almost non-existent, which is part of what's been pushing me over into biting the bullet and finally breaking down and getting past the, oh my God, this interface sucks point.
Well, I also have to ask you, although you may not be in a position to say, Debs, is of course the other thing where mesh is seemingly going to be all important is Linden Labs' new platform, the thing they like calling SL2 until they now recalled it Sans, whatever it is called, a working title. Have you been involved in playing for that?
No.
Probably the simplest place to put it.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
Not at all.
But again, your experience with mesh will probably count for quite a bit when we find out what's going to really happen.
Well, I mean, what I heard from Ebe's, is it Ebe or Ebe? His speech at the conference recently was basically that, I mean, maybe I got it wrong, but what I got from his speech was that the new world will be all mesh, and it will be made by content creators who create with things like Maya, and that basically, he basically. I don't mean to. I mean, this is how I read it, and several other people read it. Is that the content creators in Second Life aren't good enough?
Yeah. I do.
Okay, I'm gonna disagree with that, Reed, because
I'm glad about that.
Yeah, well, no, and my reason is this: what I have heard is when they first invite people in for closed beta this summer, or closed it may be closed alpha, but they will be inviting a few people. They will be inviting some folks in, and and the people they invite in initially are going to be people who are skilled in Maya. But that's only the starting point, and they're clearly doing that because they want people that already have the skill set professionally.
I think,
and that makes sense to me because there's a lot of stuff people can get wrong, and if they get good people in there on whatever they need to build initially, then having tools to work for those who don't have the skill set, they're much more likely to be able to to facilitate that part of it. Ebby says too much about creators to be throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
No, I think what we have here is very similar situation to, we discussed this a bit with certain grids that come online on the Hypergrid, for example, and they're already populated with 60 regions full of stuff that people will say, hey, that was pinched from here, there, and everywhere. That's a different issue. But you can understand it from a grid point of view where they don't want to open a grid and launch it with a big fanfare and all you have is a sandbox that people can make whatever mess they want. They want an opening where they've got ready-made content. And somebody would have made that content, and hopefully they will be, some of them will be experienced users. But before they can open up the broader brief to user-created content, and especially as that user-created content will be much more rigidly controlled, I suspect, then they actually have to have a working prototype. And I think that is the point where at the moment it's going to be very, very controlled, with hand-picked creators contributing the initial elements to the world. I think once that's in place and the standards and the style is set, then I suspect they will move to, with controls still in place, they will move to more, encouraging more users to create content. But we don't really know what the user content creation tools Inworld will be like. Indeed, if there is any, it may all be a question of working offline and uploading. So they may, if I was Emmy, I would actually think it fair to say that, some of the criticisms of Second Life, even now, but especially earlier on, were for every great thing you found in Second Life, you also stumbled into an awful lot of goddamn messes. Yeah. And, that isn't very good for promoting your world if the journalist ends up at a pink penis party or something, where they're not even sculpted, where they're not sculpted properly. You want to have something to show off that indicates the quality, indicates the quality and standard of your new great platform. So, to allow users to create slowly but surely and bring them in when they're up to standard, I think may be a very good tactic, although I must admit it does tend to take the free anarchy part of Second Life out of the equation. But I suspect they're working, in stages, and at the moment the first stage is to get a good quality exhibit to put online to get people into, and then worry about.
Well, actually, the first step is the infrastructure behind all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is it's all that stuff under the hood that has to be in place that drives how user friendly it is, as far as a virtual environment that's a creator's environment.
They're building in C++, aren't they?
I have a final question
C++, not C++.
On other platforms for you, Debs, as well. Oh, yeah, being a fellow Brit, have you come across I hasten to call it a platform initially called Improbable?
I haven't, no. That's a new one to me.
It's they have basically these people at Cambridge University have been working, seems about a dozen of them, for about 3 years on developing an infrastructure, a bit like an underlying infrastructure that would facilitate connecting all types of virtual worlds together. In other words, a bit like an HTTP, low-level stuff that would facilitate communication between the different variety of virtual environments that have been created with different types of platforms. And they now have an office in London. They're no longer at Cambridge, and they've received massive funding for what they're doing. And
they've got crowdfunding, haven't they?
No, they've got venture capital and phenomenal amounts of it. Really, they may have crowdfunding too, but it's actually a venture capital thing, and you're talking millions that they've got in. So it's no game, should we say? And they got a full-time staff of 12 for one thing, who've been at it at Cambridge and are now working independently. And I guess the enthusiasm of VR hardware and everybody under the sun coming up with their own device interfacing, there's renewed interest in it, especially as the system they're working on is something that will underpin all types of virtual worlds and somehow allow them to have a level of commonality deep under like web pages are all built on the basic code, even though they're vastly different from one another, and they have different plugins ranging from HTML5 stuff to older things like Flash and JavaScript and what have you. You no longer look at a web page and just say that's a web page. It can have a million things. It can have its own complete environment. which has, but underneath it all, there's this little string of code that's anchoring it to the basic thing that is a web page. And I think they're working on that level with the idea of virtual environments. So being a fellow Brit, and now they came from Cambridge and now they're in London. And, they first came to my attention when this phenomenal amount of investment capital was suddenly reported.
It must be a different one I'm thinking of then.
Somebody is very, very serious about what these guys are doing. So, and, because it's framework and, based it did, I haven't had a chance to ask Philip to say that I'm actually, but it did remind me of, what Philip and the person people are trying to do with High Fidelity, which is, develop a platform which will have as much as open systems and, that they may have some proprietary stuff to make their money, but, the idea of common protocols and being able to use anything and everything to connect is sort of ambitious. Sort of thing.
I'm just looking at this when you mentioned it. The venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz has invested 20 million into it, and it's already been valued at 100 million.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they've made their money back.
I think they made their money back, but also it sounds like they're on a good thing. I mean, things like that don't happen by accident. So I'll have to get out of the house one day and go up to Old Street or wherever it is and see if I can grab somebody there and find out exactly what it is and lay in a sandwich. But we'll see. But I just wondered. I thought with your interest in all these things, you might just have heard of them all.
No, I haven't yet. It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting.
Are you anywhere else? By the way, we've got High Fidelity, we've got Avenation, we've got Second Life. We will hopefully be on the High Fidelity when Avenation comes. Yeah. Well, I know you. It wouldn't surprise me.
We're actually doing another project with that isn't connected to London at all.
Right.
It's a different group of people, and with doing a different project about something different. What can I talk to you about?
That sort of virtual world stuff, is it? Or
it's virtual world stuff. Yeah. We're actually partnering with one of the virtual world creators with a project where we supply the content and the the marketing, I guess, for them. But we ourselves are in a funding situation at the moment. Right. So, I don't talk much about it because there's not a lot I can say.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's a project in the works, presumably for a particular client, basically. Yeah.
It's like with Avenation. I didn't say anything until we'd actually got it sorted out, but it's.
Yeah. Well, I must say, I can't wait for Avenation to get themselves on the hypergrid so I can actually come and visit virtual London with one click again.
Easy, wouldn't it? It would be easy.
Yeah, and you must. Have you got a hypergrid avatar?
I haven't. I hadn't opened SimWorld, but I haven't got one at all anymore.
Right. Actually, no OS Grid one would do. Also, Kindly one would still work. You can hypergrid. I just think you should come onto come and see our Open Sim Studios.
I'd love to, actually.
You can hypergrid in from any grid that's hypergrid enabled.
So I have to find a grid to log into.
Yeah,
there's plenty on the viewers. If you go into Firestorm or Singularity, they've all the options.
Yeah, if you've still got an old Kitely avatar, then you can use that, or an OS Grid avatar, or Avacon if you've been on OS Grid, the conference.
I've got OS Grid and I've got Kitely, so the Kitely was probably the one I remember the password of.
Give me a ping on Skype whenever you can see, and I'll give you the information to type into your map to teleport.
Thank you.
And just one small bit of advice, Debs, before you attempt the jump, make sure that your clothing is all in your suitcase in your browser inventory.
Okay.
Right, that will actually depend on the grid you come in from. If you come from OS grid, you don't have a suitcase. But
well, the warning here is the potential of arriving with nothing in your inventory and no clothes on your avatar.
yeah, yeah.
Ruth, then.
Normally these days, there was a bug fix not so long ago that usually you are safe with anything you're wearing will come with you. It counts like a suitcase item if you're wearing it. In fact, a common trick is if you go to a grid that doesn't support suitcase and you buy something or get something, you actually just wear it. You know, you wear a house on top of your head. You teleport back to your home grid and the house comes with you. Then you just drop it. Whereas if it's
That's really clever. You have to do some videos on that.
Yeah, but if it's in your local inventory, anything from OS grid, for example, it doesn't go into the suitcase because it doesn't know what the suitcase is. And therefore it stays in your local inventory, which means the assets are still at OS grid when you arrive on grid. But if you're wearing it, it just comes across fine. So the number of times I actually come back from a hypergrid sort of shopping trip, I think is the right expression. Every attachment point on my avatar has got some build or some attached to back, bigger than the sim I'm riding on. But it's a good workaround, I've got to admit, although you look bloody stupid. And actually people gobble at you at the place where you're doing the shopping because, instead of just picking up the stuff and putting it in your inventory, you put it on and wear it immediately and then teleport out with it all on. It's quite fun.
Mel, I might note it's probably getting to be time to wrap.
Yes, and I just noticed something about audio breakup or something, but typical. It was earlier on. I can't watch everything at once. Okay, well, it is indeed time to wrap. So what I like to do at the end of the show, as always, is just quickly round everybody here and ask them if anything is exciting them in the coming week or has excited past week that they haven't mentioned so far, even if it's real life or just vaguely related to online stuff. So I'll start with our guest today, Debs. Anything else that's got you buzzing, as we say?
Not really. I think I've gone over most of it. I mean, I was very interested in the Google I/O show, just to see where things were going. Really, I mean, the idea of not having any devices is so exciting.
It is. Well, there has to be something somewhere, but not actually having to touch anything. I think
in your Levi's, actually sewn into your Levi's. I mean, wow.
I remember back in the day, when I was sort of thinking of the future of this stuff, long before Second Life and Virtual Worlds, I was thinking that by my age now, I will be wearing a lycra bodysuit with like little electrodes, and I always thought that was the way it would go. Of course, it hasn't. Maybe one day it will turn back to that. But fascinating. Just where do we go with interfacing? Just flap away in thin air like we do with our mouths here. Right, Maria.
I don't know how I feel about having virtual reality sewn into my Levi's. My clothes are thrown all over the floor of my bedroom. They go through the wash. The cats scratch them. They rip when I climb over barbed wire. I go through a lot. I change my mind about clothes a lot.
Yeah.
I'd hate to have expensive electronics built into them. And if the electronics are cheap, then
I'm just thinking,
I don't want to. Then the more expensive version would be better. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to have a better version of virtual reality than the cheapo thing that's cheap enough to put into my jeans.
Yeah, and actually, I'm thinking of the bodysuit component and the tracking things. Can you imagine, if your cat suddenly decides to go into your bodysuit as a bed and then wakes up and goes hunting with his bodysuit attached. All chaos would reign as your online interactive suit went off with the cat. Oh, can you imagine? I think Tara could probably try and imagine.
Yeah, well, and not only that, is the cat's occupation of the garment going to cause the garment to send signals to activate your online persona and thereby do things that are very strange.
So you mean like the way she does now by walking on my keyboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm.
She's already there.
Cat videos and cat photos on the web. I mean, I'm a sucker for cats, but you have to resist. But uniquely I think it was yesterday. I normally only post OpenSim stuff in Google Plus, but somebody posted. It was an Avatar person I know. This absolutely wonderful video of a cat, and I reposted it on Google Plus. So those of you following me there might have seen it, but it was a cat, the cat that rescued the hand that feeds it. And it was a simple clip, and it was just wonderful. There was a person sort of relaxing by a window, and a cat was sitting around playing with something on the windowsill by the person. And the person, like when you drop off or just relax, their hand, they fell out off the windowsill outside the window. So it was hanging down outside the window. This darling cat, a white cat, cute little thing, immediately notices, goes along to the elbow of the person and gets down outside and lifts the hand back and puts it back inside on the windowsill.
Oh.
Because it doesn't want its owner's hand to disappear out the window. It was lovely. It wasn't really hysterical. It was just lovely.
Aww.
So my Google Plus followers have had a non-virtual treat in the form of a white pussycat in its owner's hands. Anyway, enough is enough. So, I guess that's it. So, but was there any final roundup for you, Tara, there?
Only that I think my focus this week is going to continue to trudge ahead with Blender, and yes, actually, I do have a question I'm going to pose related to OpenSim and the hypergrid and OpenSim server software, and that is, I am finding that while a mesh or sculpt set of stairs correctly built, you can walk up without a problem in Second Life. However, I'm finding this is not the case in OpenSim, where the same set of stairs doesn't behave. Your avatar doesn't.
Yeah, that was really odd. I was trying that out with you yesterday, and
So if anybody has any information on this, I would love to hear about it.
I would also add to that question, because these stairs, these mesh stairs, arrived in perfectly, and I tested them out for Tara too. I was able to walk up them successfully, drop off the end, come back round to the beginning, try it again. No way, you can't walk up them again. So it's like first time lucky, and it works fine, and then suddenly it decides not to cooperate.
Not to cooperate. Yeah. It's very very strange. So I guess my first question is this a universal issue with OpenSim servers, or is this something that is perhaps specific to Great Canadian Grid, in which case I'll approach it differently. But if anybody has had this experience and knows what causes it, drop me a note at tara@tarayates.com.
Yeah. And if you found it in DigiWorlds or Third Rock Grid, mention it too, because they're the same, identical server to Great Canada too. So. Okay, well. We will be back next week. That's all I can say for now. We've, as you should manage to overrun our 90 minutes. Seriously so. But we have kept to under 2 hours, which is very good. If all goes according to plan, I'm pretty certain that we'll have Ilian from Kitely as our guest next week. That is the arrangement when we'll be back at our normal headquarters studios over at the Great Canadian Grid and we'll see you there. So for now, I'd just like to thank Debs, who's been our special guest today. It's been a long while, so thank you very much, Debs.
It's a real pleasure.
I know
always.
you've been a bit under the weather recently, so I'll give you a get well soon on that too.
Thank you.
Great to see you, and I'll have to grab you and take you over to our new HQ at some point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, funny beep noise there as well. Right, was it one of these Chris's? He says, looking around at everything. Right, so thanks so much for being here, Debs, and thank you, of course, to Maria Karloff.
Always a pleasure to be here.
And you can check out all these Hypergrid Business on Twitter too, just twitter.com Hypergrid Business, or indeed twitter.com Meta Maria, who gives you a little bit more and repeats Hypergrid Business and gives you a little bit more besides. And for destinations, don't forget Maria's companion site, hyperica.com. Now Tyler's working there. You are endless posts of new locations a day. Some new grids, but also a variety of destinations on given grids. So it's getting pretty exhausting. And thank you, as always, of course, to Tara. Thank you, Tara.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
So with that, I will just sign off in the usual manner. Having thanked everyone for being here, including myself, of course. I will wish you all a very good morning, or indeed a very good afternoon, or a good evening, or possibly a good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. And we will, as James Bond says, return. Bye for now.